So what do you do when you see a more experienced tech professional, maybe a senior engineer? You go into the DMs on Twitter, send them your best crafted elevator pitch, telling them how you want them to be your mentor, telling them how they're the best things in sliced bread, and they just air your DM. They don't respond to you, and you feel heartbroken. You feel that that's probably going to be the end of your career. What's the next step you take? Now, I understand the importance of mentors. When I look back at my career, I can find a strong correlation between the impact of my mentor and significant growth in my career. So this video is not about undermining or underestimating the significance or the importance of mentors in our careers. However, for many entry-level professionals, you don't necessarily need a mentor. So many entry-level professionals can actually make significant progress in their careers without necessarily having an active mentor. And it's very difficult for entry-level professionals to get mentorship. I am more experienced than I was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And right now I have a lot of people reaching out to me for mentorship. And more often than not, when I have like first conversation with them, I find out that they don't actually need a mentor. For many of them, they just actually need some form of clarity. Many of them actually need teaching. So many of them need accountability. Some of them need guidance. And a few of them actually need me to probably refer them. And it's very difficult for me to refer an entry-level professional who I don't know. So in this video, I'm going to share how you can actually get the accountability that you think you need from a mentor, how you can get some level of guidance, and how you can actually build yourself to a point where you can get people who are way more experienced than you recommending you or referring you for opportunities within your space. All right, so accountability is largely the major request I get from many people who ask me to be their mentor. So many entry-level engineers or entry-level tech professionals reach out to me saying, hey, I've tried my best to start my career in software engineering, but I'm always in this loop where 2 months, 3 months into it, I stop. I don't know how to move on. I don't know how to make progress and get to the next step. And my advice or recommendation to them is, first, if you know you struggle with discipline and consistency across your life or in major areas of your life, you're probably going to struggle with it while you're starting your career in tech. And a hack to ensure that you can be consistent is to find an online community of people at around the same stage with you, which are easily found with online learning platforms. So their online learning platforms provide the community, the structure, the curriculum, which provides the accountability required for most entry-level professionals to be consistent and see it through. And more often than not, if you cannot follow an online training program where you have teachers, where you have assignments, where you have colleagues that you're working on projects with across a time period, it probably shows that you might not be best suited for that career path in tech, or probably you're in a situation in your life where it's not the best time for you to be pursuing that career path, or maybe there are life changes you need to make, and the solution at that moment is not a mentor who has to keep checking in with you and micromanaging you. The alternative, if you cannot afford an online curriculum, or if you cannot afford to take a paid course, or if you cannot even afford to take a free course for some weird reason you don't just like online communities, is to build your own personal accountability system. And my own hack for this, I did this when I was still an entry-level software engineer, and I still do this now with my manager. So my hack for this is that I usually reach out to somebody who is more experienced and I say, hey, I am learning this, and in the next 3, 4, 5 months, I intend to have shipped this. I intend to have built a website, or I'm learning this, and in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I want to take a course at work. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to present this. I want to be able to have this in my portfolio. Now, by reaching out to somebody who is more experienced than you, who is accessible to you, and it's important that the person is accessible. So sometimes there are people like me who are accessible but not available to and hold you. So we're accessible in the sense that if you send us a message, we can find time within 2 or 3 days to respond to you. So if you have people who are more experienced than you, they're accessible, people that you can send them a message and get a reply from them in 2, 3 days, 1 week, you can use them to build your accountability system. So you proactively reach out to them, set a personal milestone, and then tell them the specifics of your goal for the personal milestone. So you can read online about SMART goals. Essentially, you set SMART goals and you reach out to them. And so because you have reached out to them and because you have this emotional expectation, and these are people you look up to, so these are people you don't want to embarrass, these are people you don't want to disappoint, that emotional dynamics there kind of forces you to ensure that you're consistent because you don't want to disappoint them. So this is a way for you to build accountability. Now, beyond just telling them your goals, you can also tell them the metrics of assessment that you want from them. So you're reaching out to them saying, hey, I want to build this portfolio at so and so time. These are the things I would really love to get your assessment from. So this is what I'm comparing it to, and I'd love to get your assessment on if what I am doing or if whatever I deliver in the next 3 months is up to par with my benchmark. So that's two ways for you to build accountability. One is using online training platforms. Another is using people you look up to. Now, you could use the same principle of people you look up to with your peers. So you find a group of friends that are within the same level with you, and I recommend that they are not necessarily within the same field. So let's say, for instance, you're a software engineer and you have a friend who is a product manager, you have another friend who is a graphic designer or looking to start their career in product design, you have someone else who is looking to start their career in marketing, and you can form like an accountability team where you, as the software engineer, you have your own benchmark, you have requirements. The person who is a product manager has their requirements, the designer has their requirements, the marketer has their requirements. Whatever the case may be, you should just build like your own mock software engineering team or your own mock team. And because you're within a team and you have a project to deliver at a specific timeline, that gives you some form of accountability. So you can even run your own mock startup where you have your own stand-ups and stuff. And that's how you create your own accountability without a mentor. All right, so the second thing is guidance. And this is a bit difficult to kind of hack without a mentor. And I get why many entry level tech professionals reach out to people who are more experienced to get some form of clarity around guidance. And that's because you understand that they've been there, they've done that, they know the loopholes, they know the fast routes, they know the shortcuts, and they can help you navigate the maze of building a career without you making the same mistakes that they made. And that's the reason why we even have mentorship. That's the reason why we have the whole idea of the apprenticeship system. The idea is that you have somebody who is more experienced and who has been there, who has done that, and the person can help you ensure that you don't make the kind of mistakes that they made. However, in 2024, you have a number of experienced people who are constantly sharing their knowledge on the internet. I'm also doing the same thing on YouTube, right? And there are a lot of people on Twitter in the Nigerian tech space, in the US tech space, in the UK tech space, in the Indian tech space that are consistently sharing from their experience and helping people. And there is enough knowledge available on the internet to help people at the very least avoid the mistakes of many mentors. And to a very large extent, I feel that there is some form of difficulty with this, because now the problem is, how do you now ensure that you're listening to the right person? How do you ensure that you're filtering for the right information? And so there are some of those complications, but I feel that the benefit of that is that you're no longer even stuck to the limited knowledge of your mentor per se, because now you can access knowledge from a community of people who are more experienced, and you can see the mistakes and the imperfections in several mentors. So for instance, if I'm going to give you advice about building your career, there's still going to be limitations based on my experience. However, if you listen to me and follow other people, you can get a more holistic perspective. I didn't build my career with an online portfolio, with a personal brand. And so if I'm going to advise somebody building their career, I would probably not be coming from the angle of building a personal brand. If you listen to me, you probably get my advice and the recommendation around building your career, but it might not provide some of the insights you need as regards the effects of building a personal brand. But if you listen to me and listen to somebody who builds their career by writing on the internet, by writing articles, by speaking in conferences, you now get my perspective on how to build a career without doing that, and then you get their own perspective on how to build a career by doing that. And so my recommendation is this: Try and follow people who are down to earth on the internet, people who are not trying to paint themselves as some great experts who have not made mistakes in their career, but people who are vulnerable enough to be able to acknowledge that they made some mistakes and to acknowledge that their knowledge is not perfect, and to acknowledge that there are nuances that their tweets, their posts, and their videos might not cover. Now, this might not be enough to get you through the whole long haul of your career path, but this is specifically to entry level professionals who are just starting. This is enough to take you far enough that you can naturally build the mentor-mentee relationship. You can build your career, and people can see your competence and see your uniqueness and gravitate towards you. Now, the third thing I've noticed in mentorship requests I get is that many people are reaching out to me to use my network effect. So they need a job, so they're reaching out to me to reach out to my group of friends. Probably feel I know a lot of startup founders who might be hiring, so they're reaching out to me to connect them with founders who would be willing to hire them. And that's fine. If you ever reach out to me that you need a job, I would go above and beyond. I would even go as far as reviewing your resume for you, as far as reviewing your cover letter for you, and as far as sharing your resume and your cover letter with people I know who are hiring. And if I see any job that matches your experience and your expectation, for sure I would send links to you. But the problem is that it cannot scale. I can probably do that for maybe 2-3 people per month. I can probably respond to maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DMs per week and stuff. However, there is an alternative. Now, this is an alternative that I wish I used earlier on in my career, which is building in public. Now, I'm not necessarily saying building a personal brand. I have spoken in lots about my position on entry-level professionals starting their careers with building a personal brand, and some of the pitfalls, like getting to a place where you get drained or you get drowned in the applause of your peers who, because they don't have sufficient experience, they can't actually give you the right assessment of your work. And so whatever you do is mind-blowing to them, and just get to a point where you feel that everything you're doing is mind-blowing and you don't spend enough time building competence. However, what I'm saying is building in public, which is that whenever you're building stuff, whenever you're working on a project, if you join an online community, if you're taking an online course, whatever project you get to work on, you can actually write a case study about it. You can write a summary article about it. If you spent this week reading about a new tool or reading about a new technology, you can write an article about it. If you're learning about Kubernetes, if you're learning about design systems, you can actually make tweets about your discovery. And so this is you communicating your learning process as a learner publicly. The good thing about doing this is that in most countries and in most industries, the tech space is quite small enough that people observe folks who are talking about what you're learning. And so founders, senior professionals are seeing you talking about the technologies you're learning. They're seeing your perspective about the technologies. They're seeing the insights that you're gleaning from the courses or the books you're reading. And so they have a real-time assessment of your knowledge. It's easier for them to assess you, and it kind of makes it easier when you send out your resume to companies, because some of the senior professionals who would most likely be reviewing your resumes and your CVs would have probably seen you on the internet talk about the technologies you're learning, and they already know your name. Your name is probably familiar, your handle is probably familiar, and so it's that familiarity probably makes it easier for them to review and assess your resume. So my recommendation, rather than reaching out to senior engineers to ask them to refer you to jobs and stuff, would be that you take time to build in public. You take some time to share your learnings on the internet. You're not doing it necessarily to build a following. You're just doing it to just have some form of public portfolio of your learnings. So this is going to sound very cliche, but I think it's pretty important I say this. If you're just starting your tech career, do not be afraid of experimenting. Do not be afraid of failing so much that you don't take actions because you are looking for a mentor. You're looking for someone who can ensure that you make no mistakes in your career path, and to ensure that your career path is just straight without any bumps or any challenges, or to ensure that you minimize the bumps in your career path. Well, that's good. If you have a mentor, if you have access to someone who is more experienced than you, who is willing to spend enough time to guide you, it's a good thing. However, if you don't, then the best thing you have is to be action biased. In my experience, I found out that I met mentors and I met people who helped me, while I was taking actions, while I was already taking the next step, while I was already out there, while I was already in a position where I was ready to make mistakes and I was trying to discover or just doing stuff. That was where I met people who were like, oh yeah, I can see you're doing this, but you could do it better. That's where someone said, I know a guy who's building a community in the US who is going to help, who is looking for Nigerians who he can help, who he can train. And that's actually how I met my first mentor. So please try your best to be action bars. There are a number of resources and information on the internet right now that can help you minimize mistakes in your path. Make the best decision you can make per time, but be action bars. As you keep on taking steps forward, you keep on making the best decision based on the information you have. Life has a way of sending the right people along your path. You find out that you start meeting people who are on the same journey with you. They can be your peers. There can be your peers, there could be people who are more experienced than you, but life just has a way of orchestrating things where you meet people who are like-minded, who you can rub minds with, who can provide you the guidance, the accountability, and the network effects that you need. So just be action bars. Don't just stay hoping that the only way you can make progress is if you find that unicorn mentor who's just going to help you navigate this career path. It's a long, arduous career path. So as much as you can, be action bars. Make the best decision you can make with the information available to you. I hope that's been helpful. My name is Ayomide Arigbede, and I help tech professionals build thriving careers. See you next time.